Day 5 of the Best of Series continues as you'll hear from Bill Romanowski and former Raider fullback Oren O'Neal on Wednesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for June 26, 2024.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast to get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available. As always, if you're checking us out on YouTube, you know we appreciate that. The show has grown in a major way. That's because of the support of Raider Nation. Of course, my man Ari does a fantastic job as well. We definitely appreciate him. You can check him out on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. Normally, we have the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. But I'm on vacation. We're doing the best of shows. Got a lot of great interviews that I've done over the course of the year or so. And I want to make sure I bring that to you while I'm on vacation. And just in case you missed these interviews, you get an opportunity to catch up with them and hear them. So no calls and texts on today's show, but you will hear from Bill Romanowski, one of my favorite interviews. One of the guys that was one of the first dudes I had a chance to interview when I was back at ESPN Central Texas many, many moons ago. You'll hear from him. He was a part of the Raiders Alumni Wellness event that they had over at the M Resort, so you'll hear from him. And also fullback Oren O'Neal. I know he didn't play with the Raiders for a long time, but you want to talk about a good dude? Oren O'Neal is a fantastic dude. You'll hear from him in segment number 2 and 3. Bill Romanowski here in segment number 1. As a matter of fact, we'll jump into it after I tell you about the title sponsor of this show, which is Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Before we get into the interview with Bill Romanowski, he is, as I mentioned before, one of the first dudes that I ever had an opportunity to interview with. And it's funny, the first Super Bowl opportunity I had to go to was in New Orleans. And the first Super Bowl that I was at there was the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers. And so Bill Romanowski was there. I was working for ESPN Central Texas. We also had another radio station that was kind of affiliated with us that was sitting behind us. So we would get a guest, and we'd take them to that table, and we'd take them to our table as well. Well, of course, I got excited when I saw Bill Romanowski rolling around. I was like, man, I got to get that guy, man. That dude was a bloodthirsty pirate as a linebacker for the Raiders. And, of course, he played for the Niners, played for the Broncos, had a hell of a career. But just, knowing Bill Romanowski like I knew and what he meant for the Raiders when he was there playing with the silver and black, I thought, man, got to get that guy on the show. And so the show, as it is in Vegas, was called Unnecessary Roughness. And so as you'll hear me open up this interview, I'm telling the story of the first time I said unnecessary roughness and what Bill Romanowski's response was when he heard that. Here's that conversation from Raider Alumni Wellness Weekend with former Raider linebacker Bill Romanowski. Very first time I ever got to interview Bill Romanowski, I said it's unnecessary roughness, and he said all roughness is necessary. How you doing?
Good, real good.
I will never forget when you told me all roughness is necessary. There is no unnecessary roughness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what kind of rule is that? We're playing football, right?
Right. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. I know this is almost getting wrapped up. The show's almost getting wrapped up. But I wanted to just catch up with you real quick and just kind of this event, the Raiders having all you alumni here for this. How big is that for you, just personally?
I tell you what. I played for, 4 teams.
Yeah.
Denver Broncos aren't doing this.
Yep.
San Francisco 49ers aren't doing this. The Philadelphia Eagles aren't doing this. And the fact that Mark Davis, and I've been hearing for a couple years that he's been really wanting to do this.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Off the charts. It just goes to show that he cares about the players as human beings.
Right.
They weren't just, robots that go out there and do a job for him. And his dad was the same way. When I played for, I call him Mr. Davis, he cared about you.
Yeah.
If you helped him win a football game, you were part of the family.
Right.
And that's just how he was.
Right. It's awesome to see this and see you guys all get together.
Yeah.
Right, and have that camaraderie. How does that feel just to get to see your brothers again?
Oh, I mean, I've got a few jobs. I've got a nutrition company.
Yeah.
I'm always out just, working, getting things done. And coming to an event like this, seeing guys I played with, guys I played against,
Right.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It really is.
Right. No, it is, and it's awesome for me to be able to be here and just be able to, talk to you guys for a few minutes and, see how much fun you guys are having being around each other. And, mental health and wellness, which is what this event is really a big deal. And to lean into that, I think is really, really special on the part of the Raiders.
Well, it's kind of a big part of what I was about when I played.
Yeah.
That's why I was able to last as long as I did. And post-football, what do? I started a nutrition company that focuses on leaning down, sleep, and brain health.
Yeah, right.
And this fits right in with, kind of what I believe already.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And I know you've been at Super Bowls, Radio Row, all over, sharing the message. And so I know it's important to you. And so this event's got to be right there for you.
Oh, yeah. No, incredible. A lot of really smart people, spoke today. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It really was.
I believe it. Before I let you go, before we get wrapped up, I wanted to ask you real quick, what do you think of this version of the Raiders right now under Antonio Pierce?
You know what? I don't think Josh McDaniels was a good fit for the culture.
Yeah.
Antonio is a good fit for the culture. Now he's got to win.
Right.
At the end of the day, that's what this game's all about.
Yep.
It's about winning.
Yeah.
That's what Al Davis was about. That's what Mark Davis is continuing to try to figure out.
Yeah.
He's looking for that recipe, and he's looking for that right coach. And I hope he's successful.
Me too.
The challenge you have is you're in a real tough division.
Right.
Yeah. You got some good football coaches coaching those other teams.
Yeah.
And some talented players.
Right. Yeah, there's that. Yeah.
With, of course, the Chiefs being, if not in the Super Bowl and winning it, they're right there.
Every year.
Every year.
Right.
So it's, and what you got to do is you have to literally draft to beat the teams in your division.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're dealing with a great quarterback, you better make sure you got pass rush.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with a great tight end, you better have a strong safety or a really good linebacker that can cover, Travis Kelce.
Right.
You have to really dial in, and sometimes that might go against a little bit of maybe what your direct needs are.
Yeah.
So
but you got to do it.
But you got to do it.
You got to do it. Well, Bill, thanks so much for giving us a few minutes of your time. You're closing out the show with me. You're closing out the show. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Save the best for last.
Save the best for last. That's how we do it. Great stuff right there from the great Bill Romanowski with us here on Raider Nation Radio 920.
That's always an intense dude. Always a very intense dude. Bill Romanowski right there, and one of the many guys I had an opportunity to catch up with at the Raiders Alumni Wellness Weekend that they had, and that was the first of many. They're going to keep having that each and every year. It's just like their alumni weekend. And, of course, they'll be having an alumni weekend during the preseason. It'll be that right before that final preseason game against the San Francisco 49ers. That's when all the alumni are in attendance at Allegiant Stadium. It's always a lot of fun. But, man, Jay Schrader, Nick Bell, you've already heard from them. Sandra Douglas Morgan, already heard from her. Oren O'Neal, you'll hear from him coming up in segment number 2 and 3. You just heard from Bill Romanowski. Jacoby Ford, you heard from him earlier in our Best Of series. And Marcus Allen and Tim Brown, I actually had them I put them on the show, I want to say, I don't know, the weekend, maybe the Monday following that weekend. It was really awesome. Matter of fact, I'll probably close out the Best Of series with them, because why not? When you get two Hall of Famers like Marcus Allen and Tim Brown, why not go ahead and run it back and put them on there again? But there were so many different players in attendance, and it was really a great blessing just to be there and be able to, talk with them. But think about this. I do a 3-hour show every day on the radio, and I had all those guys and Sandra Douglas Morgan as well as the president of the Raiders all on my show in a 3-hour time period. Jay Schrader, Nick Bell, Marcus Allen, Tim Brown, Ryan Hogue, Sandra Douglas Morgan, Ira Matthews, Oren O'Neal, Bill Romanowski, and Jacoby Ford. I squeezed all of them in a 3-hour show, and I even had Paul Gutierrez from ESPN on the show as well. So I don't really know how I did it, but it was fantastic. It was a lot of fun, and I was just glad to be a part of, a small part of what they had going on that weekend. Coming up in segment number 2, part 1 of my conversation with Oren O'Neal, another guy that I was able to catch up with at the Wellness Weekend for the Raiders, the alumni event at the M Resort. You'll hear part 1 of that conversation coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before I get to that, though, I do want to tell you about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to continue with the Best Of series. This is day 5. Just got a couple more days of the Best Of series, and we'll be back in action. Live shows, brand new shows starting on Monday, July 1st. Looking forward to that. And again, not a huge fan of Best Of shows, but I'm also not a huge fan of not having anything there for you. And again, everyone doesn't get to listen to every single show and every little outlet and every little nugget that I do. So figured that this is an opportunity to bring some of the best stuff that I've been able to do over the course of the year and bring it to the table and have it all in the same spot. So had an opportunity to catch up with former Raiders fullback Oren O'Neal. He didn't play with the Raiders for a long time. He was mostly injured. But, man, he's a great dude. He's been a part of the show before. He's got a fantastic message, just a real down-to-earth dude. But the thing is, I never have been around him in person. So when I was at that event, it was the first time I actually saw him in person. So before he even went on the radio, he just came up to me and gave me a big old hug and was like, Q, it's great to see you in person. I'm like, man, my man. And it's funny, in this business, more times than not, you know people over the phone, or you know people through Twitter, or you know people through email, and you don't really know them in person, or you don't really meet them in person just based off of what we do. So to catch up with Oren O'Neal was really good. So here's part 1 of the conversation with former Raider fullback Oren O'Neal.
Got my man, Oren O'Neal. How you doing, my man?
Hey, I'm good, man. I'm good.
This is so great because we've had plenty of communication.
Right,
You've been on the show before. We've chopped it up, but we've never chopped it up in person.
I know, right? We always say, I'm going to be out there this weekend.
Yep.
We're going to meet up and never meet up.
And we never do, so now we get the opportunity. How is this for you, this kind of event?
Oh, man, this is really great. Cause I'm getting to connect with guys that I ain't seen in a while.
Yeah.
Remember my roommate, Ricky Brown? We was on the road. We chopped it up for a while. Good to see him and all that stuff. It's the reconnection that I really love, man.
Yeah.
That was really good.
You know, it's funny. I've talked to many different players, and they all say that my roommate was over here, or my roommate this, you know what I mean? And we had Jay Schrader and Nick Bell were here. And they, oh, yeah, man, these guys, we ate together in the lunchroom all the time.
Yep. Lunchroom, road trips, all this stuff, man. So my roommate, Ricky Brown, when I was playing, everybody used to make fun of me because they said I sound like Mr. T when I talk. So we be in the team meeting room, and I'd be there like, Big O, what we got right here? And I would clearly, in my mind, state what we got on display.
Yeah.
But Ricky, since he was always with me all the time, he could tell my tones and stuff like that. And every time they'd be like, hey, Ricky, what did he say? He was like basically my interpreter everywhere.
Right.
Like that, right? So, I don't know. It's good to see him back. We always went everywhere, ate together, did everything. He looked out for me and stuff like that. That's cool.
Yeah. Hey, that's what it's all about, though, is the reconnection, being able to think about old times and have a good time and have a good laugh. But, you know, when it comes to the Raiders as an organization, and when they say once a Raider, always a Raider, they mean that.
Man, that's real. It's like totally serious, right? Because I went to my homeboy's party back in Houston a while ago, and a friend of mine, we were to college together. He went to go play somewhere else. He went to Canada, and he was with Green Bay.
Okay.
And then so we coming back, and then I'm just got all my Raider gear on and stuff all the time, stuff like that. And then he looked at me and said, So I guess you just Raider all through and through. I'm like, hell yeah. Because you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't know no other team in the league that treat their former players like they treat us. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's really family, right? And you can't help but to rock this shield wherever you go. Not to mention the logo's dope. You know what I mean? The color's dope.
Yeah.
But then the way they treat you, it just ties it all in, man. You just want to rep it everywhere you go.
Every player I've talked to says, hey, look, I've been in many different organizations. Nobody treats you like the Raiders. Nobody. Right?
Nobody.
When you can't score touchdowns, when you can't throw touchdown passes, when you're not relevant to the organization right then, a lot of times they kind of let you just go and forget about you. The Raiders don't do that.
They don't do that. Now, they're going to do their business move. It's a business.
Right.
But once the business is done, like, hey, come on back home. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And that's what's really cool, man.
That's what football is. It's definitely a business, but, again, it's a family here that they have with the Raiders. And, I'm a big advocate for mental health, and this is a big mental wellness weekend, for the alumni. How big is that? I mean, you guys were the best of the best. You guys were big, strong. Nobody could hurt you, right? I mean, that's in people's minds. That's what it is. But there's a mental aspect to it where everyone needs a little help and wellness.
Man, everybody does, especially the health and wellness come the feeling of man, we care about you.
Yeah.
Then, that goes a long way, especially when you're struggling mentally. Like, if my transition was mentally, it was a tough transition, right? Because I got hurt, right? And people don't realize when you get hurt, not only you're away from football, but you're away from everybody.
Yeah.
You're away from all your friends, all those things like that. Then life moves on and goes, stuff like that, right? And then those little things, you get to yourself. And then the dark spots start to grow because you're just by yourself, stuff like that, right? But when they bring you out here and they make sure they make you, they call you, they make sure you're all right?
Yeah.
They make you come out here, they make you do the health screen. I mean, they don't, but you get what I'm saying? They press it on it real easy, real tough to make sure these are available. Take the stuff serious, right? Mm-hmm. And then through these processes, here's the first time I got some mental health therapy a while back that really helped me set up, not just for myself, so I could be the man I need to be for my kids and things like that, right?
And you've done a lot, since your playing career. You've done a lot. You've done a lot off the field and been involved in a lot of things. How important is that for you that you kept working and grinding and doing other things and doing things that were very important to you?
Right, that's how important it is. That's everything to me. Like, you know what I mean? When I told you I was in those dark spaces, the things I do now, especially in the community in Dallas where I work with the kids, in less fortunate communities, teach them STEM stuff, give them career stuff like that, but basically engaging. And when you're in your dark spot, that's therapy. You know what I mean? That's release. Like, you give you see these little babies smiling and stuff like that, you give them back and all that stuff like that. Not only do you see they smile, that's internalized and it make your days better and make your existence worth existing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I have no doubt. Again, Oren O'Neal is with us here on Raider Nation Radio 920. Unnecessary roughness. When you look at this Raiders current team led by AP, what do you see? What do you think?
Well, from the before AP and now, I see a different energy, right?
Yeah.
Well, you can't help but to see it like as a player, you got a coach like AP, who's a player.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Super Bowl champ. Everything he says, you got to buy in because he's telling the truth, right? Mm-hmm. So one thing that really stands out to me the most is the energy, the buy-in. It's a whole different vibe, it feels like.
Right, it is. It definitely is, and that was starting November 1st, right? And now he's got the whole off season. It's his OTAs, it's his mandatory minicamp. Training camp will be all his, and then obviously the regular season. It's a different vibe, as you mentioned, energy. The Raider way, it feels like the Raider way is back.
The Raider way is back. I remember when he first took over, then we went in the locker room. Now they're in there. You live it. You know what I mean? Because you spend most of your time doing it, and now you come to a place where it's like, all right, if I'm here all the time, I'm going to enjoy it and stuff like that, right? And it's good to see that again, right? And I'm looking forward to big things this year, man.
What do you think? How beneficial is it when there's as many former players on the coaching staff as the Raiders have? They've got a lot of former players on the staff, from cornerbacks coach, a safeties coach, a linebackers coach, guys that have been there, done that.
I think that's huge, right? Because when I got drafted, Tom Rathman was my coach.
Okay.
He played with the 49ers, had 1 year with the Raiders, so he's a Raider. But,
right. He was a good one. He was a really good one.
He was a really good one.
Yeah.
But you walk into a meeting room like that, and then you're like, oh, man, that's Tom Rathman. You know what I mean? He did at fullback, did everything you're supposed to do at that level. So now, not only do you buy into what he's talking about, but, he understands everything that you're going through. He knows how to reach and get you to that place. And if you got a staff full of those coaches who've been there,
right?
You know what I mean? Those players, it's easy to buy in. You don't even think about it because, all right, cool. It's like we back. I know you. It's family. You understand what I'm saying. I'm not just getting yelled at. by somebody
For
who
no
can't tie
reason.
their shoelaces right. You know what I mean? I know where it's coming from, and then I got it, right?
Yeah.
I go, you pick up quick and you go, right?
Right.
No, it's cool, though. You really see their passion, too, when they was there on the field and they coaching. That's a real passion, too.
Yeah, no, they are. You know, we've been out there at OTAs. We've seen them a lot. There's, like I said, a bunch of energy. The guys are talking about how happy they are to come to work.
Yep.
Just a big. It's just night and day.
Night and day, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, that's what we need. I can't wait to see it get going. You know what I mean?
How was it for you when you knew, okay, it's the off season, we haven't quite got to training camp yet? Like, what was kind of your process?
Well, my process was kind of, my first year, I kept getting hurt, man.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So I would never really get away.
Right.
So I was like, I would take some time off, probably about a week. But then when my training would be like, when I did train, it would be like football activity. If I needed condition, I'd run routes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That I needed to do that was going to equate right over to playing on the field. But for the most part, man, like after my first year, my hamstring was acting up. And then I had to come back. I ran into Al Davis one time. I was back early when nobody else was there.
Yeah.
But I was there to get some rehab. And then he ran to me, and I'm getting dressed, and I'm getting out the locker room, and I see her, I'm like, oh, there go Mr. Davis. Because I didn't want nobody to know I kept getting hurt.
Yeah.
And then he was like, hey, what are you doing here? And I was like, oh, man, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, right? You know what I mean? And then he was like he didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
You know, he was like, oh, that's a good one.
Right.
How was that, you know what I mean?
How's that hamstring doing?
Stuff like that, like, oh, well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, I was always around the facility, man. When we was in Oakland, man, I just loved being around the Raiders, man. I loved every minute. I loved every minute of what I was doing, the opportunities I got to do, the people, the organization, everything, man. I love it.
So there was part one of the conversation with the former Raiders fullback. And again, a guy that was often injured, but a really good dude, and was really cool to be able to catch up with him and see him in person and, just chop it up. Talk a little, Raider football and, what the organization meant to him, and just to see the team embrace him the way that they do. And again, it's once a Raider, always a Raider. And I know that that doesn't apply for every single former member of the Silver and Black. There's a couple players out there that we don't need to name their names, that we don't really want to kind of give them that cachet that once a Raider, always a Raider. We all know who we're talking about, but Oren O'Neal, definitely not one of them. Really good dude. Coming up in segment number 3, you'll hear part 2 of the conversation I had with him, where we start off talking about Mount Rushmore and Al Davis, how it applies to him. So that's coming up in segment number 3, part 2 of my conversation with Oren O'Neal here on the Locked On Raiders podcast. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Time to just jump right into it. Part 2 of the conversation I had with former Raider fullback Oren O'Neal. Really good dude, as you could tell by part 1 of the conversation. He's also been on this show before, just talking Raider football and talking about what he's got going on. It was great to be in his presence and be able to chop it up with him, like I said, in person, as I did with all the players that came through, and even Sandra Douglas Morgan, who you heard from her earlier on. But part 2 of the conversation, we start off talking about Mount Rushmore and Al Davis, and of course what he meant to the Silver and Black. Here's part 2 of my conversation with the former fullback Oren O'Neal.
We talk about Mount Rushmores, and everyone says, well, you got to put Al Davis on the Mount Rushmore for the Raiders. What was Al Davis like?
Al Davis, he was serious about football. He was serious about the Raiders. He was serious about the way we did things, right? Mm-hmm. The way he did things, he put in effort. Like usually any owners, like some owners might be like, oh, I got this team because it's fun. Like, no, Al Davis, like, no, this is it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is what I'm here for. I'm not these other things like that. I'm Raiders and all through and through. Knew football. He knew everything what was going on when you run into him, things like that, right? And if you're not winning, we can't say certain words on the air. But if you're not winning,
right?
You know what I mean. Sometimes it could be like other conversations could be like, "How you doing, Mr. Davis? I'll be doing better if we was winning more ball games," type thing.
Yeah.
But all he want to do is win, and that energy is like, man, that's the Raider way though.
It's so funny. I was talking with Akbar not too long ago, and he said, you could smell Mr. Davis coming because he had that certain cologne, and he's like, man, I thought I was going to get cut one day, so I smelled that cologne, and I ran the other way.
Hey, I remember one time I was hanging out at the facility. I ran into Willie Brown. He was real cool. He was player development when we was there. And then and he was like, we was talking, we was chopping it up, And we wasn't doing too good. It was the 07 season. We wasn't doing too good that year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then we sitting there talking, had the time of my life and everything. And then he said, what time is it for? It's like, go. I got to go. You know what I mean? Because when you're not winning.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So somebody told me, he's like, don't ever ask Mr. Davis how you doing when we not winning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He going to tell you.
He going to tell you the truth,
He going to tell you the truth and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But no, that's Mr. Davis, though.
That's
he
awesome.
was intriguing.
That is so funny, and I always think about that when people ask, a lot. Always, hey, how you doing? How you doing? Do you really want to know?
I ain't gonna know. Everybody like, nah. It's like, I'll be here. I was like, what happened out there?
Yeah.
You gotta be ready.
That's what everyone keeps expressing to me is that he would talk to a certain player and have that memory of, okay, what happened on this play, this, that, and the other, and just kind of recite it back to you, spit it back to you, and then ask you, okay, what happened there?
Right.
And already knew the answer.
Yeah, I knew the answer, right?
Right.
Yeah, I knew what was going on, things like that, man. And he was like, man, very so much so a student of the game, right? Because unlike any other owners, he was a coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So football was everything. He got there. He knew. You had to know your stuff when you talk to him.
Right.
You can't know him. Right?
That's what made him who he was.
Who he was.
That's funny. Did you ever have like a favorite moment or one of those, oh man, that was my moment right there that I really appreciate or really loved about being in the league and being with the Raiders?
My favorite moment, I guess it was like, it was two. Like, I mean, it was my rookie year. I went, and to make football happen to me, I had to jump through a lot of hoops. I didn't have any scholarships coming out of college, out of high school. I didn't went to a smaller school. It was like other things, but to actually work and everything you do to get there. Mm-hmm. And then I remember our first home game. It's different from the preseason stuff like that, right? Because the preseason, like, especially I was a 6th-round pick, and you're on the bubble. Only people getting lockers are like either first-round picks or veterans. And they had these little mobile stations. It's different now. At the facility, you got a whole different locker room.
Got a whole room.
A whole room for.
Yep.
But us, you just in an island, right? You know what I mean? And my whole vision, my whole goal is like, I have got to get off this island because there ain't no security. I need my own plank. I need my own locker, everything, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I remember after, I remember right when we was right at the training camp, and they did all the major 3 cuts. They did the first cut, then the big cut. No, the first cut, it go small, big.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then I thought the big cut came, boom. I was like, well, I'm good, right? I'm good. I'm gonna go to Best Buy, buy me a TV and all that stuff like that. You know what I mean? I'm in line waiting to go. Then I got a call from my homeboy, so we got drafted with Quentin Mosley. Called me and said, Big, I need a ride to the airport, man. Just let me go. I was like, what? I thought they threw all the cuts. So I'll be right there. I took my receipt, but I need to return this. I need to put this back and stuff like that, Because I got to make sure you're supposed to start spending money.
Right.
But you know what I mean? But that call did come, and then week 1, we go in the locker room, man, and then you go in there and you see your name on the placard. They already got your jerseys on in your chair already ready, like you like it. Anyway, how you want it cut? I want it like this, and just right there ready for you. And I just remember that day I walked in there, and I got there 2 hours there, and I sat in that locker and stayed in that locker for like an hour. Like, man, I'm here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm here. And then you step on the field and you playing, and man, that was the moment, right, man. I'm here.
That's
you know
awesome.
what I mean? And that was real good.
Hear the crowd yelling and screaming.
Yep. Let Hell's Bells come on, then you run out there and things like that, man.
Yeah.
No, that was great. But I tell you one thing, though. One thing, like, I was finally waiting, like, I was like, because you grow up, you watch, you run through the tunnel, and then everybody be like, hey, starting fullback, you got Orin O'Neal. That's what I was waiting, right? And then everybody would cheer, you run out. But then when it was my turn to get the full-time start, I was on the roster because when I was a rookie, I wouldn't start, but I'd play a lot, right? They said they gave Rav and told me, we need you to go first out the gate. We need to let you know. We need to let them know what type of party it is. We're going to smash it down their throat. That's all we did.
Yeah.
We just running down their throat. But, I wasn't the starter. But the next year I was the starter, right? And the next year I was going to be the starter. But then I got hurt with this knee injury, and I came back my 3rd year. Now it's time for me to be I'm the starter.
Yeah, you're the guy.
I'm like, so I'm just dreaming. They finna call my name out, stuff like that. Everybody be like, they go like, at number 46. I was just like playing all in my head.
Right.
Like, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna do a side straddle? How am I? Am I gonna straight run?
You've been working this whole thing
This
out.
whole thing, right? You know what I mean? Remember Tom Cable got to be a head coach job. He got the head coaching job, and then he pulled it like. He was like what the Patriots did to the Patriots. I'm a team guy. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But the Patriots, they just was announcing the whole team out through the huddle. I was like, so when it's my turn, you know what I mean? I ain't getting no shot. I've been waiting for this thing out.
Right.
I was like, but that's what we talk about the crowd to feel the energy, man. I just wanted to, but it was electrifying, man. I was like the Raiders fans. It was but it was fun, man. It was nice, though.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to give you your flowers. 46, Oren O'Neal here with us on Raider Nation Radio 920. Oren, man, thanks so much for your time, brother. It's always great. It's great to catch up with you in person. Man. We got to do this more often.
Oh, yeah, I'll be back.
So there you go. That was my conversation with Oren O'Neal in segment number 1. You heard the conversation I had with former Raider linebacker Bill Romanowski, a guy who, you know, he's always represented the Raiders really well as after his playing career was over, obviously being an analyst, talking about the team, talking about what the team needs to do. He's a very passionate dude, and he's always around the silver and black. So big ups to Bill Romanowski and, of course, Oren O'Neal as well. Coming up on Thursday's show, going to get a few good interviews from Raiders Media Day, something I was able to be a part of with Eric Allen, of course, JT the Brick as well. That was at Raiders HQ. Really good event. We talked to so many different players, talked to different coaches, talked to GM Tom Telesco. You'll get some really good stuff coming up on Thursday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Until then, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, Raider Nation, just win, baby.